And we have much more right after the break. And up next, Senator Jim DeMint explains how America can get its fiscal house back in order. Plus, casino mogul Steve Wynn makes a very rare media appearance and gives us his take on the Obama administration's economic policies. His shocking remarks still to come. Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. So what would you ask if you had the chance to speak to one of your elected leaders face to face and hold them accountable? Well, pollster Frank Luntz brings the politician straight to the people, and he's got another special guest.
He's been called the conscience of the conservatives. South Carolina Republican Senator Jim DeMint, I know that you've been frustrated with what's happened in Washington, as are the American people. And you sometimes have gone against your party. Here's your chance to prove to them that you can be independent and be loyal to your country. What would you say to the American people should be the way that Washington should function?
Unfortunately, Congress is addicted to spending. Republicans and Democrats for years. And I'm afraid President Obama has only made it worse.
Let me stop you for 1 second. How many of you believe that Congress is addicted to spending? Raise your hands. So that's almost all of you. That cuts across partisan lines. Second question, how many of you are optimists when it comes to the country? Raise your hands. If you could, briefly, why should they be optimistic when Washington doesn't seem to listen and can't get the job done?
Well, Washington's not America, okay?
50?
And the government is not our country. Now, it can hurt our country or help our country, but it cannot make us, because our country was well made before we even had our government, and we were free, and those principles of personal responsibility and free markets, those things were at work and have been at work. But as the government grows, it slows those things down to the point where we've got over $14 trillion in debt today, and that number's too big to mean anything to any of us, except that everyone knows that you can't keep spending more than you're bringing in. And we're on that course right now, and all the budgets that have been presented by the president continue to grow that line up more and more, and we're going to lose our country unless we stop spending more than we're bringing in. So there's only one solution, let me mention that.
Very quickly.
Unless we balance our budget, unless there's a constitutional requirement that we balance our budget, we're going to bankrupt our country.
Do you guys agree with that?
That's the same song you all sing, but what is the real solution? We have to come up with the real solution. I mean, we're going to...
Let me explain it to you, because it's something that millions of Americans are going to be involved with over the next month. As you know, the president has asked us to raise the debt limit again, the amount of money that we can borrow as a country, another $2 trillion. The only way we can stop it is if the American people stand up and say no. And there are dozens and dozens of grassroots groups who I've been talking to who are going to force members of Congress, House and the Senate, as well as presidential candidates, to sign a pledge to cut spending immediately, to cap spending rates over the next several years to bring us to balance, and to actually pass a constitutional amendment and send it to the states for ratification. That's our strategy. If we don't do that, there is no other plan on the table that's going to stop us from bankrupting our country.
Do you like that strategy, yes or no? Yes. Yes. Who likes it? Raise your hands if you like it. Raise your hands if you don't. Tell me why not.
But Senator, how can you balance the budget without raising taxes, without generating revenue? It seems really odd to me that all I hear is cutting taxes. Yes, that's a good soundbite, but I think somewhere you're going to have to generate revenue somewhere. So why not allow the top 1% to pay a little more in taxes?
You're nodding your head no.
When was the last time you got a job from a poor person? When was the last time?
You agree?
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that, you know, it really isn't the rich people that create the jobs. It's corporations that create the jobs. And you still have 1% that's generating all the revenue, and they're not giving it back
and that
to the
1%
government.
buys things. They do.
No,
they spend.
they're not buying anything. They're saving it.
You would have repealed the push taxes. It's absolutely absurd that the top 1% should get that tax break that was put on under the Bush administration. It was put in temporarily. It was supposed to expire. You should have let it expire.
Okay,
No,
everyone
let me finish.
at 50. Everyone at 50, start reacting to the senator.
Sometimes we don't want to listen to the facts, and I'm not a rich person, probably will never be if I keep the current job I have. But 10% of Americans pay about 70% of the total taxes right now, and they pay at the highest rate in the world. Okay, we don't really have a revenue problem. More money's coming in the government than ever. But now the federal government's trying to do everything. It's trying to run.
Go to any European country and look what they pay for taxes.
Believe me, I was looking at the statistics today, and what some folks will try to say, the average rate in America is lower. But over half of Americans pay no federal income tax. So there's a very few that pay all of them. Now, let me just make one more point. If you could take more money from Bill Gates and the rich and bring it here and it would actually help people, I'd be on your side. But all the evidence is every time we bring more money in here and grow government, it's just more cash for clunkers programs that waste people's money. It does not help the poor. We've created more poor people since we started trying to help them than there were before.
Your reaction?
There's so much waste. Tom Coburn did a study on the waste.
Sure.
The millions and billions of dollars that are being wasted now on stuff that we don't even want. And the money that's going over to Greece and the Saudi Arabia, why are we doing that?
So I got to ask you, because I got to wrap this up. Does he have a plan, yes or no? No. So that's not enough.
No, he's not letting me run, so why does...
Okay. This is one of the challenges that we're going to face is you've got a divided country. Mm-hmm. We have a divided group. Is it possible for all of us to agree on anything? That I'm not sure.
Well, Frank, I hope we can agree that we can't keep spending more than we're bringing in.
Do you at least agree with that?
Yes. Okay.
Good for you. You got one consensus here. We'll be back in a moment.
And we continue now with a special edition of Hannity. We go back now to Washington, D.C., and our own Frank Luntz.
Politics isn't the only perspective that matters in America. Let's face it, the economy's in tough shape. So why not listen to a business perspective from someone who's responsible for tens of thousands of jobs? It's my pleasure to welcome Steve Wynn of Wynn Las Vegas. And I got to ask you, as a businessman, knowing the economy where it's at, what should the politicians in Washington be doing so that business people can hire more workers? Everybody go to 50? Let's react.
My business is based upon the people that work there. That's where the franchise comes from. Only people make people happy, and that's what makes them come back again and again, and allows you to raise prices to keep, track of rising costs. And only in the control of the people and the better life for my people, when they feel good about the place, when they feel good about themselves, do we create a business that's enduring and has security for the employees and the stockholders. What's happened now, after 40-odd years of doing this, is that for the first time, I've been unable to protect the living standard of my employees. In order to keep them happy, we've developed a familial kind of protective attitude of these past 40 years. And keeping my people happy has given us a better tomorrow. For the first time in my lifetime, for the last 2 years, the living standard of my employees has been dropping like a rock. Clothing is more expensive, gasoline's more expensive, school's more expensive, everything is more expensive, health insurance is more expensive. And no amount of salary increases that I can give them can keep pace with the decline in their living standard. Now this has a very, very stultifying or negative effect on my business in two ways. It makes my employees unsettled. That means they don't worry about our guests and the guest experience as much as they should. Although I'm very proud of our employees in Las Vegas, they're doing a great job, as well as China. But the fact of the matter is, the uncertainty, the drop in living standard is affecting also our customers. Yesterday I was in New York City.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second.
Sure.
Does he understand?
Yes.
Does he?
Absolutely. Yes.
He gets it. Why do you say that?
Well, here's one thing that I'd say that a lot of people think that the successful financial people in the world are these cold, greedy, money-hungry people. And he didn't even mention one thing about his perspective and his position. It's all about the people that he's been able to help through his company.
He talked about it. Yeah, he talked about his employees.
Well, let's be honest.
That's the cornerstone.
Let's be honest about it. I've been very lucky in life. I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I risked everything and I got wealthy. My living standard is relatively protected compared to my employees. I've got this cushion under me, based because I was a capitalist and I was in the right place at the right time. But the real reason that I survive and businessmen survive is because of their employees.
Okay, Steve, what's the solution? What should Washington be doing?
Get out of the way.
Yes.
Listen, in the Broadway musical Music Man, the musical comedy, opening number is you can talk all you want to. You can talk. You can picker. You can talk all you want to, but you got to know the territory. We got a president that doesn't know the territory.
Mr. Wynn.
I voted for Obama. I'm going to say it plain. You can't run America without understanding how it works and without experience.
Fear about tomorrow. You talk to your employees, fear of tomorrow.
First of all, they don't know what government policy is going to affect their insurance. Since the last time we opened a hotel, let's see, the Wynn company started in 05, the Wynn Las Vegas and Encore. Every year from 05 to 10, health insurance that I supply, I've been a healthcare provider for 40 odd years. Not only for my non-union employees, but for the union, I pay for their insurance. For 45 years, I've been a healthcare provider. It's something I know about. And for the last 5 years, until this past year, my health costs increased for my employees by 8% a year. I did not change the benefits. I didn't change the copay or any of the deductibles. I left it alone. We went from 17 million, our costs for non-union employees, to 33, and about the same, maybe a little more for the union. But what the hell? Business was good. It's part of the cost of doing business. Let's keep on trucking straight ahead. Now, we have the Obamacare bill, went from 8% to 12, exactly the opposite of what they told us.
So
now,
I want to ask you, I got to ask you to close.
You want to shine on the public, you can keep talking, I guess.
I want to ask you this final question. Everyone turn your dials to 50. If the president and Congress were listening to you right now, what would you tell them?
Get off health care. Let private enterprise do the health care. Do not try and have a single payer system, and repeal that 2,700 pages that not one of the 435 congressmen, 100 senators, or anybody in the White House read. Not one. Now, how do we pass 2,700 pages of legislation in the United States of America without one single person reading it, written by staffers? What kind of government is that?
I want a show of hands. How many of you would want to work for Steve Wynn? Steve, you got a lot of happy employees here. We're out of time. Thanks, Steve Wynn, for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thanks, Frank. And coming up, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul sets forth the Tea Party view on economic issues, plus the Democrats' point person on the budget talks, entitlement reform, and tax increases. Straight ahead. And welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. Now, Senator Rand Paul was swept into office in last year's Republican midterm tidal wave. He now joins Frank Luntz and his All-American Focus Group.